Hello, my incredible class. Mrs. Adams here. This is the instructional video for the map packet, page 10. Let's read the instructions at the top of the page. Don't forget, you can always pause, rewind, and play the video again if you need to see something more than once. Using scale. Using this map and the scale of miles, complete the table of approximate distances between cities. As you can see, there's a map of the United States. There are also a handful of cities that are marked by bullet points scattered across the country. We are going to use this scale to measure from city to city and fill the answers into the table. Before we begin filling in our measurements, we first need to duplicate this scale onto a blank piece of paper. So pause the video here and grab yourself a blank piece of binder paper from your language arts journal. Welcome back. Let's go ahead and take our blank piece of paper and orient it in portrait mode so the piece of paper is vertical. Notice how the piece of paper has a blank space up at the top. I want you to take that piece and fold it down, match up your two edges, press in the middle, slide your finger to the left, slide your finger to the right. We're actually going to be using the folded edge of this piece of paper. Now, everybody got a set of markers in their toolbox. I'd like you to reach into that set of markers and pull out the green, the black, and the gray marker. So pause the video now and go grab those tools. Welcome back. Did you get your markers? We're going to start with the very first line with our green line. So remember, you have the folded edge of your paper. So line your piece of paper up with the very beginning of that line. I then want you to take your green marker and make a tally mark or a dash right below where the 0 is. Notice how I'm starting at the very top and pulling my marker all the way down to where that first binder line is. Now I want you to take your black marker, and we're also going to make those long dashes all the way across. Notice how there are longer dashes that are related to the numbers, and there are smaller dashes that do not have numbers. We're going to talk about those in a minute. First, let's get our lines on the paper. So with your black marker, you're going to go to the number 200, the next long dash, and draw a line from the top to the first blue line on your binder paper. Make this mark with your black marker for every long dash that there is on this scale. Remember, this is about measuring, so we need to try to be precise. And the last one ends, for me, right before the hole on the piece of binder paper. Replace the cap on your black marker and move to your gray marker. The gray marker is going to make the dashes for all of the small dashes in between the numbers. If your paper has slid around at all, please make sure you reorient it or line it up again where the green dash is lined up with the 0. Use your gray marker and only draw your line about halfway down the space that the lined paper gives you. Make sure you line it up with each one of the 3 smaller lines in between. You can pause the video here to complete the rest of your dashes. Okay, do you have all your marks? Now I want you to get your pair of scissors so we can cut off that extra bit that has holes. Remember to always cut away from your body. Let's trim off the edge of the paper right to where our very last black line was made. Next, we need to mark on our new scale what the numbers are. This is best done with a pencil because it can be more precise in writing small numbers. So, as you remember, the 0 is lined up with our green. 200 is the first black line. 400 is the next. You can pause the video here to finish marking all of your numbers. Welcome back. You might notice that the numbers are counting by 200s. 0, 200, 400, 600, and so on. So, to find out where halfway between 0 and 200 is, we're going to divide 200 by 2, or divide 200 in half. 200 divided by 2 is 100. So let's decide where the 100 mark would be. Well, if I have 4 sections, 1, 2, 3, 4, then half of 4 is 2. Therefore, half of this section would be 100 miles. So this line right here is 100 miles. So for every 2 lines, 1, 2, 100 miles has passed. And we can continue to divide that by 2 and say, well, if there's 2 sections here, then 1 line in is 50 miles because 50 is half of 100. So this scale is counting by 50 miles at a time. 50, 100, 150, 200, 250, 300, 350, 400, 450, 500, 550, 600, and so on. That's going to be important later on when we start measuring. You can also mark for yourself near your scale or even on your paper every line equals 50 miles. So from here to here is 50 miles. Well, let's go ahead and move on then. Take a look down at the bottom at your table. The first column of cities is going to be your start city. So I'd like you to get your green marker and put a dot, a green dot next to the start cities. This is really going to help as you begin to measure the distances. Let's do our first one. So in this table, we need to see how far it is from Dallas to Boston, and then from Dallas to Miami, from Dallas to St. Louis, and from Dallas to Chicago. And we're going to do that for every single city in this left-hand column. So first, I want you to find Dallas and get your scale and line up the green line 0 miles with the dot of Dallas right here in Texas. When you're measuring, you want to try to have your green line lined up where the edge of it is on the outside of each of the dots. Now, they did tell us that they want approximate distances. So if you're a tiny bit one way, a millimeter to the left or a millimeter to the right, it's okay. We're going within 50 to 100 miles distance, which means within 1 or 2 tick marks. So we need to find Boston now. So we're going to start with the green line on Dallas, the start line on Dallas, and then move and rotate our scale till we find Boston. Now you might notice when I did that, My green line ended up moving as I rotated. So once you find your destination city, make sure that you recenter your scale in case it moved during traveling. So now you can see I have my green start line lined up with the bullet point of Dallas, and I have a straight line with my scale all the way to Boston. I'm going to find the line that is the closest to the Boston bullet point. I believe it lines up nicely with 1,600 or 1,600 miles. This is the number that we're going to write here into our category. So from Dallas to Boston, 1,600 miles. MI is abbreviation for miles. Let's do it again for Miami. From Dallas to Miami. So again, starting from Dallas, finding where Miami is. I know Miami's in Florida. There it is. Recenter your scale to make sure that your green start mark is lined up with the Dallas. And then you're going to decide which one is closest to Miami. So I see here that it's 1,000 miles, and it's not quite 1,200 miles. It looks to me like it's pretty much right in the center. So it's not 1,000, it's 1,050, 1,100. So we're going to go here and write 1,100 miles. Now let's measure from Dallas to St. Louis. First, find your start point, find your end point, and line it up. After you rotate it, make sure you readjust. 200, 400. To me, it looks like St. Louis is lined up very nicely with the 600-mile mark. And lastly, start point Dallas, end point Chicago. Dallas to Chicago. Grab your scale, line it up, make sure you adjust, find the closest mark. Well, the mark before it is 800, but I noticed that it's one more line in. Remember, every line is 50 miles, so 800 plus 50 is 850 miles. Let's try another one with New Orleans. Start point New Orleans. Line up the green. From New Orleans to Boston. New Orleans, all the way up to Boston. Notice how this moved, so readjust so that way your green is lined up with your start point. And find the closest line to your Boston dot. Well, it's not quite to 1,400 miles. It looks like it's one line before it. So I can say 1,400 minus 50 would give me what that line is before. So 1,350. You could always double check by counting up. 1,200, 1,250. 1,300, 1,350. So 1,350 miles. Go ahead and continue with that process through the rest of the table till you finish it all the way through. All right. Have fun traveling across the country and good luck.